Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for sticking around. I realize that this is the last presentation between the event and, well, everyone going home, so I will try to keep it brief and as entertaining as humanly possible. My name is Nader Henein. I am the Regional Director for BlackBerry Security. My role at BlackBerry is to work with our enterprise customers, our regional carriers, and mainly government and institutional customers to ensure that their mobility deployment is safe and secure. Having said that, today's presentation focuses exclusively on enterprise applications and the road to mobilizing the enterprise. The reason why the security guy is standing here today, because in most cases mobilizing enterprise runs into many roadblocks, largest of which is security. So I'm going to try to address that with you. Traditionally, information has sat in large, clean data centers. This is where IT lives. Information sits in these data centers, nicely secured. It's a known quantity. Most of you will be running either Windows or Linux, and those are controllable assets. They've been out for decades, and the security for those assets is relatively known. What happens with mobility, and I'll give you a quick timeline about that, is a complete disruption of the paradigm that we're quite used to. In 1994, IBM and Bell South introduced the first known smartphone, which was called the Simon. It was a full touch device. It was a massive failure, mainly because it cost quite a bit of money. It didn't work that well, and the battery life was atrocious. But nevertheless, somebody has to be first, and thanks to Bell Simon, they worked out the first. In 1999, Research in Motion, which is currently BlackBerry, came out with our first interactive pager. This was called the RIM pager, the 1990. And this provided a way for people to connect their emails, their notes, their tasks, their calendars with a mobile device. It worked really well in terms of the pitch. Our two founders, Jim Balsillie and Mike Lazaridis, traveled up and down between Washington and New York selling to finance and government. And they told them that if you connect this to your computer, you'll be able to have all your information on the move. And it worked. And the one key selling point was that it provided security transparently. You connected it and it worked. You didn't have to provide multiple passwords, connect to a VPN, do multiple steps to gain your email. You were able to send and receive messages with the same simplicity that you could send and receive an SMS. In 2004, we launched, we matured the BlackBerry Enterprise server to manage BlackBerry devices. But in 2009, 5 words changed everything. There's an app for that. And it changed the entire market. Why? Because it inspired people's imagination to believe that you could build an application to do pretty much anything. Before you go onto an app store today, you know what you're looking for, and you're almost sure to find it, simply because somebody must have thought about it before you and they made an application, and chances are you'll find a few. And that changed the paradigm completely, for consumer as well as for enterprise. For enterprise, more importantly, because now marketing departments, finance departments within the organization have the same view towards things. They think there's an app for that. There must be an app for us to collaborate. There must be an app for me to share information with my team. There must be an app to calculate information within, let's say, the insurance industry. And then came BYOD. BYOD, bring your own device, bring your own laptop, bring your own smartphone, bring your own tablet. And it was thrust upon administrators. They had to accept it because there was so much pressure to have a mix of devices that administrators were forced to take a step back and see how they could secure this information. And as we move on to 2013, 2014, and so will the pressure to accommodate more devices and more importantly, the applications on these devices. Less and less is the device becoming the main decision maker, more so what applications can I have on this device, and does the device have the applications that I need? Within the enterprise, this is becoming the main focus now. And today, data fragmentation is becoming the biggest one of our concerns. Information no longer sits in one data center, nice and clean. Information spirals out. It's sent out to a group of people, they send it out to another group of people, they change it, they modify it, and then you have separate nodes, you see them on the top right of the screen. And those effectively are people who have left your organization, or a contractor or an agency who you send information to, but no longer works for you, and they have this information, some information from your company. Be it intellectual property pertaining to some discovery you've made or a process that you use, or maybe it belongs to something like some information about your customers. Now, traditionally, IT security has been always branded as the brakes, what slows down a company, what slows down the decision process. And we'll go through an example about that. But I always like to mention this. Without a really good set of brakes, a car would not be able to go nearly as fast. Yes, you can get a car to go 300, 400 kilometers an hour, but without good brakes, it's going to be just one trip. So, what's the challenge? The challenge is to take information from your servers, put it on a mobile device within mobility management, and that individual wants to share it with a team. This is enterprise mobility. This is enterprise applications. Any application that you think of that you use within your enterprise does almost one thing, and that is take information, store it someplace, so a team can access this information. So this information can be updated on the move, modified on the move, and there is some processing maybe be done on the cloud. So they first want to share information. Initially, let's say your marketing manager receives a bit of information and shares it with the 3 members of his team. The next step, he wants to be able to take this information, store it in the cloud, so that his team can collaborate, so they can share this information, so they can change it, so he can always access it any time of day from his device. So they go to the IT department and say, well, we want to be able to share this information. We want you to put a system for us to be able to do this. The IT department comes back and says, well, we're more than happy to do this. Maybe we have to make an FTP server, maybe set up a SharePoint server, and then we can give you a bunch of applications so you can access this information and share it and collaborate. But it's going to take about 3 weeks, and it's going to cost you X amount of dollars. Marketing team says thank you very much, and within 20 minutes the marketing team has set up a set of Dropbox accounts, installed the Dropbox application on whatever device they use, be it a BlackBerry, an Android device, an iOS device, and they're sharing documents amongst themselves. They got exactly what they wanted. They wanted a space where they could store documents and share them amongst themselves. The problem here is that Dropbox is a cloud service owned by a third party. Doesn't matter who the third party is, it's just a third party. And now you're storing information that belongs to the enterprise, doesn't belong to you, belongs to the enterprise on this third party server. Depending on what industry you're in, what you've done just now might be considered illegal. It might be considered something that's regulatorily inact. So you may have to answer for why is information now being stored on a third-party server. It doesn't matter whether it's Dropbox, Box, a third-party solution of any type. It doesn't matter if you know the people who run this service, how they store the information. It just doesn't matter. This information is now sitting in the clear on a third-party server. But is there a way now of securing this information on the third-party server? So this is where enterprise applications come in. What can you change in this scenario that would allow you to share information on a third-party server? The right application, So let's say now you distribute a set of keys to each member of the team, they encrypt the information on the devices, and they store it in Dropbox or any third-party cloud solution. Is it still the same problem? No. Why? Because no third party can access this information. You send emails from work to other employees all the time. This information can be transmitted across the internet where it can be easily intercepted because it's encrypted, because it's secured, because even if somebody gets their hands on it, they can't do anything with it. They can't read it, they can't make sense out of it. It's theoretically improbable. In the same sense, an application could answer the requirements of this team quite easily by encrypting the information before storing it on third-party servers. So this is where enterprise applications meet third-party cloud solutions, free solutions, if you will, that provide you with this service. The key concern now is management. How do you manage this information? How do you manage that each individual within your organization can use this solution, will use the solution? How you distribute the applications? How do you control that they only use the applications you allow them to? Let's say today you have a few hundred employees. Each one of them has their own device. You want them to connect all together under one roof within your enterprise and use applications that are only mandated by the enterprise. Yes, they have their personal apps, but you want them to use certain applications to access your network. How do you enable them? The key concern here is management. The key concern here is enterprise mobility management or mobile device management. How do you control iOS devices, Android devices, BlackBerry devices, and so on and so forth under one roof, and do so with one standard IT policy? We offer one solution, there's many out there. Like I said, this is not a sales pitch for BlackBerry. There are many solutions that will do this. The BlackBerry Enterprise Service, Best 10, will manage iOS, Android, BlackBerry devices for you. So you can push applications to these individuals. If you want to enable all of them, you can push the application from the server and it will appear on all of their devices in one shot. You can also push all the keys to them, so they can encrypt everything with the same key, so they can then retrieve it in the same way. And if one of these people leaves your organization, you can disconnect them from the service and remove them from your organization easily. You want to be able to have control over your people. You want to be able to have control over your data regardless of what smartphone or tablet they're using. It doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter. The most important thing is the information rather than the hardware. So, what is it you take away home with you today? 3, maybe 4 points. Mobility management is step 1. Being able to control what your users use, how they use it, how to extend applications to them, how to extend keys to them, how to manage their devices, whether they need a password or not, that's critical. The cloud is not your enemy. A lot of people run away from it. And there are multiple variations of the cloud, be it a private cloud, a semi-private cloud, or a completely public cloud. Don't run away from it. It's available. The internet is not a bad thing. Yes, it's not necessarily safe depending on your risk posture, but it's something that you can secure. Very important to remember this. In security, it's a matter of identifying the risk, identifying what you can live with, and being able to mitigate that risk. And security needs to be transparent. If in the process of providing your enterprise users or a customer of yours with an enterprise application that takes away from their usability, that requires them to take multiple steps to be able to use this application more than they're used to, they're not going to use it, and they're going to find a way around it. Security has to be transparent. It has to be clean. And last but not least, user experience is key. These individuals went and bought a BlackBerry, or went and bought an Android device, or went and bought an iOS device for the user experience. If by securing the device you take away from the user experience, then it's counterintuitive. It has to be seamless. Security has to be seamless, and the application has to be user-friendly. So I promised you brief, hopefully a bit instructive, and we can take it from there if you've got any questions.